welcome, welcome to another informative, motivating, and inspiring episode of Shoes Off Talk,
Shoes off
where
talk.
where we invite you to come in, take your shoes off,
Sure.
and prepare yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually to have uncomfortable conversations. Um, I just got to tell you guys, man, it God has been putting people around me and bringing people to me that I never thought that I needed, but not needed in a way of needing them in my life, so to speak, but more so needing them to give me confirmation
Yeah.
of what He has for me and
And what
what my next steps in life should look like or are gonna look like,
could look like.
could look like.
Yeah.
And so, um, man, it's just it's it's crazy because it's not. You don't imagine when you ask God to do something. You don't imagine it looking like a specific thing. Um, and then sometimes you do. You think He's going to show you in a certain way between you and Him, but it's just amazing and how He sends word, so to speak, through other people. And I'm pretty sure that they don't have any idea the things that they are saying, the affirmations they're fulfilling. But it's just crazy, man. And it happened to me twice today. I had the pleasure of meeting a young lady. I'm not going to say her name because we didn't talk about
Oh yeah.
having the
Right.
ability to mention her name on air, but her story was so amazing, and our lives were so parallel in what we have been through recently. And um, I always say this: you never want to look at someone else's situation to make you feel good about your own. You
Right.
never want to do that.
Right.
And so
Right.
that wasn't this situation at all. But I just felt like I needed to say that so people understand. Don't measure what you're going through or where you're going based on somebody else's situation,
Right.
because everybody's situation is different. Everybody handles things differently.
Right.
Um, but it's just, it almost gives you an out of body experience when you hear about what someone is going through and knowing that their approach is either the approach that you would like to take or the approach that you're currently taking.
Right.
And so to hear that from her and see how God is moving in her life and how God is leading her um, in the direction, not one that wasn't unfamiliar to her because it was very familiar. He was just having her circle back, and sometimes that hurts, man. God gives us these messages that, hey, I'm over here, you need me, and sometimes we don't get the message, so He has to do some things in our lives to get our attention, and sometimes it's painful, but
Yeah.
the outcome is you're back.
Back on
And
that. Back on that sentence.
that segues into today's show. It is I like this topic. It's a topic that Floyd came up with, and so what I am going to do, I'm going to allow, not allow.
Oh well, thank
We're
you,
gonna
Your
pass.
Highness.
No, we're gonna pass the mic and the stage over to Floyd for him to segue into what we're going to talk about today.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So today's topic is called coping mechanism. As we all know, coping mechanism. There's different types of coping mechanisms, and how as a person that what are you doing to cope what stressors, what anxieties, and what everything else that you have going on. What are you doing to cope with those situations? What is it that what's helping you to with the stressors? What's helping you with the anxieties? What's helping you with the roughness, the days go by? What's helping you get over those? What's helping you uh, stand tall? And what's helping you out? As of me, I feel like with coping mechanisms, they allow me to think differently. They allow me to be more creative. They allow me to be able to, like, okay, now this is really getting to me, But at the same time, since I have a coping mechanism, which is my coping mechanism is I'll go to the park and just sit.
So now let's 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 narrow this down and be specific. Are we talking coping mechanisms in just in general in daily lives, or are we talking coping mechanisms that are interchangeable, that you can use it in every aspect of your life?
Well, it can be interchangeable, but the thing is that sometimes depending on the person, because sometimes if you're not, it can be just going and sitting down in your room and listening to music. That's it.
Hmm.
That's all they do. And but like I say, it all depends on the person. So I mean, if it's like, let's say if it's interchangeable, let's say 95% of people can go by interchangeable, but the other 5% is like just straight across the board. That's it.
So so we're gonna actually get interactive with this. What we're gonna do is, and I have a lot of people on Facebook and Instagram right now. What we want to do is we want you guys to give us some ideas of what you use as coping mechanisms to get through tough times, to
Right.
get through your day. What are some coping mechanisms? And while we're waiting on responses from people on socials, um, Floyd, you mentioned, something as simple as taking a walk
Right.
or listening to music. Um, and like you said, with each person, it's going to be different. Um,
But
for,
let
go
me
ahead.
interject. But when you're doing the whole coping mechanisms that's for you, making sure that it's positive coping mechanism. You know, not nothing that's gonna draw you back. Because sometimes when people get into a place of depression or and whatever it is that's not good in that to be in that place, then they draw to drinking and they draw to smoking and they draw to all these other things that's gonna uh, uh, interfere with what they needed to do, which is come out of it.
Yeah,
All that's gonna do is just bring you down even more.
yeah, that's important. It's very important that we understand that there's a lot of negative coping mechanisms, and as sad as it is, the aforementioned coping mechanism that you talked about, drugs and alcohol, is what is the choice of a lot of people, um, to the point to where it's natural. Um, we've had recent conversations with people that their first thing you know once they're going through it, that's the first thing they think about. I need a drink.
Right, right.
I need a
Mm-hmm.
drink. And it's kind of a running joke, like you know, man, you're gonna drive me to drinking.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
you're gonna make me have a drink. Whether it's a person, whether it's how our day in general goes, or dealing with jobs or kids or whatever. Um, it's important, and understand this as well. Coping mechanisms can also be hobbies. So I have a few hobbies.
Yeah.
For me, um, a couple of my hobbies is I love going to the gym. Um, I love riding, um, and I love billiards. I love playing pool and billiards. Those coping mechanisms for me allow me to escape, allow me to once I'm doing those things, it takes my mind away from whatever it is that I'm going through. Um, it's it's definitely work that is needed, because coping mechanisms only last for so long, and a lot of times, typically while you're doing them, and then once it stops, if you're not keeping yourself busy, then it goes, it kind of comes back.
Okay.
Crystal on here, she says that therapy for emotional support, hang out with friends, meditate to reduce stress, journal or listen to music, exercise, or other physical activities. They do help. Um, Claire had Claire posted something. I'm trying to pull it up. Oh, um, Clara said coping mechanism takes the mind to immediately swap the words out into standing in a place of victory, declaring scripture aloud in those moments that feel like despair. Um, that is probably the best coping mechanism, and I feel kind of bad that we didn't say it. Opening the Bible,
yeah,
and praying.
But see, that's the thing, though. It's like for most of us that's into all that, that's another one for us. But the ones that are not really into the whole Bible thing, then they just like, well.
But it's still our responsibility, Floyd, to put that out there.
It is.
There's probably somebody out there that is searching for a coping mechanism, and it is our job to provide them some direction.
Right.
And the direction is,
well, I would say another coping mechanism.
Don't get Floyd saying mechanisms too fast. Floyd, slow down, because
another coping mechanism for me is, yes, reading the Bible, listening to the Bible, just listening to videos and audios and of scripture, of just the word, period. Yes, that does relieve me. Some other ones.
Yeah. Crystal kind of alluded to something as well. Sometimes it's because this is all that the church is. The church doesn't define you and your relationship with God. Church is simply a place where you can gather with like-minded people,
fellowship,
and share and fellowship. And so I think of that as well as a coping mechanism, is to get around some people that have gone through what you've gone through, and just being able to talk to someone, like Crystal said, is a coping mechanism, especially for someone that makes you feel comfortable with giving what most don't understand is their most valuable commodity, which is their time. Anybody that will allow you to have a conversation with them, vent to them, talk about your problems and everything you're going through, that's a blessing to be able to have those people in your lives, because as simple as it sounds, those are few and far between, those kind of people. Because we all know there's people out there that will say, call me whenever you want. But typically when you're calling them and you're talking to them, they're looking for the underlying thing that benefits them. Like, okay, this conversation isn't what I thought it was going to be, But when you find those ones that are truly, that you're connected to, that you vibe with, that make you feel at peace with yourself talking to them, those are the ones that you confide in. Those are the ones that become your coping mechanism. And man, it's an amazing if you have those people in your lives, cherish them, cherish them, cherish them. Don't take them for granted, because it feels like it's getting fewer and fewer of those people in the world. We live in such a selfish society that everybody is wanting to do something, and it has to be a benefit to them in order for them to be a part of it. And so when you have those people in your lives that genuinely care about you and your well-being, hey, hey, you have to take advantage of that.
You gotta
And
keep them with you.
yeah, keep them with you. Um, Crystal said, call on whoever your higher power is, um, if you're stuck. Um, and sometimes that is so true, what she just said. Sometimes it's just be still. Like, as crazy, as simple as that sounds, just be still.
You know, with that though, you just that whole phrase, be still. If you were to actually be still and just listen and don't say anything, just listen, and you just be surprised on how peace and calm can just come over.
Yeah,
Like, wow,
because it's our natural reaction whenever we're going through something. We have to feel like, okay, let me go do something, take my mind off of it. I gotta. Sometimes just sit there, collect your thoughts, because what that allows you to do, it allows you to focus on, okay, am and like you said earlier, we have those negative coping mechanisms, and a lot of times when you rush to get out of something, you run to the wrong thing. So when you take that time and be still, and also when you're being still, that allows God to move. That allows you to really focus and say, God, I need you. I'm not gonna move until you tell me when, how, and where to move.
but the thing is about that though, you say, God, I need you. But are you really sitting there and are you really? Because I know things are going sideways for you and all that. But the thing is that we can say that, but then at the same time, we're like still trying to move, still trying to be anxious and trying to get to things, trying to resolve whatever it is we're going through, you know. But if we actually did that, God, I need you.
It's funny you said that, because that is important and that is a thing. But when you really think about it, a lot of what we get ourselves into is because we've rushed to it. It's because we've rushed. Um, the young lady that we were talking to earlier, um, she had an enlightenment of accountability about the role she played in her situation. And for her to have as clear of an understanding as she has about what went on and why it went on. And what I heard from her and what she said was that the situation she got in was because she was almost like rushed to it to fill a void of other things in her life. And it just makes me think, had she taken the time and prayed about it and asked God, God, this is what's going on. Give me some direction. Slow down, be still, and in those midst, it's easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. It's easier said than done.
Yes.
But I'm thinking, like, once you get to that point and you're saying, you know what, I got to this point because I've got fast feet. I'm somebody that I want it now. I gotta have it. But if you show the discipline of saying, I'm gonna sit right here, God, figure this out. Because if I go in either direction, I can make my situation worse.
Which we normally do.
Mm-hmm. Either you're gonna run to drugs and alcohol, or you're gonna run to somebody that you know you shouldn't be running to, because all they're gonna do is make your situation worse
by
or create another problem for yourself.
Why? Because that's your yes person.
Yeah.
because you understand.
Oh my God.
So it's
Oh my God. You open up a whole nother box of worms, and it is so important.
Oh,
Y'all
man.
get focused. I'm right here with y'all. I'm running right here with y'all. It is of the utmost importance to understand your circle, especially when you're going through it. And the last thing that you need is to be around people that only want to be in agreement with you. That is the worst thing.
It is.
Find you that friend that will sometimes hurt your feelings with truths.
Right. Right.
That is okay with telling you no, you're wrong.
Oh yeah.
We call them the real ones.
Far few in between.
And understanding that real ones aren't exactly day ones.
Right.
So that is so important. Is like when you're rushing, it's hard to be in the middle of a storm and see your way out of a storm because of everything that's hitting you from all sides. And if you know the words of prayer, or you have prayer warriors within your circles, solicit those prayers, because those are what's going to keep you rooted and grounded.
Even if you're not into all that, it's always good to have somebody that you know that is.
And this crazy thing is, a lot of times, most people don't have that person, but God has a weird way of putting people in your lives or bringing people to you that you least expect. It's like being in business, being self-employed. When you start a business, you have all of these people. Hey, man, look, soon as you open it up, soon as your product is ready, I got you.
Man.
Every T-shirt you have, I want it in every color. Just let me know. Just let me know when you get it going. I'm there. I'm there. And that's the way it is in life. Is like you have all of these people that tell you, "I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Anytime you need me." But in actuality, that's not the case. It's not the case. And I say this all the time. You want to know where you stand with someone. You want to know how much a person loves you. Become a liability. Become a liability. Have some stuff going on in your life that they can't benefit from, and see where you stand with them. And I can honestly tell you, man, it has been enlightening for me to go through what I've gone through and see the people that I thought would be there for me, and in actuality, they weren't. And this is the kicker. It can't be those people you have to tell what you're going through. It's got to be those people that call you and talk to you when something doesn't sit right in their heart or in their gut about you. I do it to people all the time. Hey, I ain't want nothing, but you just came across my mind. I just wanted to check with you and see how you're doing. You need them. Because it's easy for you to tell somebody what you're going through and for that to pull at their heartstrings. Oh, man, I wish I would have known.
I mean, sometimes it can get to a point that even the ones that just call up, because you're on their mind. You're on their mind because they haven't talked to you in a while. Okay. So you'll call them up and you'll say something like that, but then at the same time, yeah, then that's when you'll be like, yeah, then they'd be like, okay, what's going on? Is anything new? What's going on? Then either you're gonna let them know what's really going on, or you're gonna be like, yeah, it's cool, it's all right, how you been, and so it all depends though. Like it all depends on the person.
Yeah.
It all depends.
And that's important as well. Is like you have to be acceptable. You have to be willing to allow those people into your lives. You have to be willing to open up to those people. It's like drug and alcohol abuse. The first step in any of that is to even admit that you have a problem.
Right.
Before you can come about any resolution, you have to admit that there is a problem there. And so when it comes to coping and having people in your life to help you get through situations, you have to be willing to talk to them, especially if they're making a conscious effort to be in your life to help you in those situations. Um, you can expect people can get as many of a gut feelings and you fall on their heart, but if they call you and check on you because something about them hasn't sit well and you've been on their mind, and you come across, oh, I'm good, ain't nothing going wrong. They know in their hearts that something's not right, but until you let them in, only thing they can do is pray for you, and that's never a bad resolution. But prayer is good for the soul. It is good for the spirit. Um, but that human interaction to have you feel like there's some people out there that care about you, is another thing. And so it's important that we, um, like we said, that we, um, allow those people that God has placed in our lives to be that for us, to allow them to be that for us. And so, man, this topic is deeper than I thought it was going to be. Hold on, let me check. Yeah, okay. I just had to make sure that my people. Um, yes, Crystal, you did call me, and I was in the middle of a conversation with someone about today's topic, and they were sharing with me some things that they were going through. So I apologize for not. Crystal just scolded me during my podcast, and got you, Crystal. Um, but yeah, man, it is. I think this topic was needed at the time that you brought it up. I don't think it would have been perceived and received when we initially talked about doing it. It's crazy how God works.
Yeah.
It's like when you think something is supposed to be done is not exactly God's time. And when doors close, when things don't happen when we expect it to happen, understand that you're doing it but it's not in God's time.
See, anything that we do things accordingly to how we want to do, and it doesn't work out. And you say, God,
Never works out with me.
And what you say, God, what's going on? What's going on? You got to look at it. It's not. It's it's delayed, but not denied.
Yeah.
So basically, there's still some things that need to be worked out where you actually can proceed with it. Okay. So get those things right, be in place for impact. It's all good.
And then, when we ask God we were just talking about this, when you ask God to intervene into a situation, you got to understand that it's not going to always be your resolution. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be your resolution. How we resolve things is we leave that door cracked. It's like pursuing a goal or dream. You never will give that thing your all with a plan A, B, and C. You have to only have a plan A. Because if you have a plan B and C, in your mind, how we're wired is if plan A doesn't work, I have something to fall back on. Eric Thomas said it best. If you want something bad enough, you have to want it bad enough like it is to breathe. And a lot of people won't get that. But And that's the way God is when you call on him to work a situation out, unlike us where we leave that door cracked so we can possibly come back through it. And even if we don't come through it, we want to be able to like open it up a little bit so we can peek into it. You turn it over to God. God is not only closing that door, but he's going to seal it on both sides. And so, and what that does, it allows you to focus on him. And a lot of us have gone through what we have gone through because God is trying to get our attention. And my mom used to always say, it's like, you think a whooping from your parents hurt? Let God let God whoop you.
Oh, that's a
let God whoop you.
total different.
But yeah, man, it's so important that we start developing things in our lives like coping skills. And that comes along with communication, man. We've got to definitely be better at communication,
right,
and accountability. Those two things will prepare us for what's to come. It will allow us to get through things that feel like they're insurmountable sometimes. Because a lot of getting through things is just speaking it. Is hearing yourself say it. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. Really meaning it. I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna get through this.
And you have to realize some things. I mean, when you say stuff like that, you have to realize that this is not your first rodeo.
No, won't be your last.
Right. And so the thing is that you've been through some. Might not be the same situation, but you've been through some stuff before, and you got through it.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're going through something different, but the same. But you're going to get through this.
Yeah.
So that's all it is. It's just more so of everything that we go through, like we talked about before, struggle. Every struggle you have is just a step to growth. So everything that we do is you're just growing through it all.
And I say this all the time. I said it today: is God is not going to put you through what He's not going to bring you through. Right. And the Bible says God is not going to give you more than you can bear.
Right.
And so it's so as simple as that sounds. Once you gain a true understanding of that, you understand that your pain is temporary. Your pain is temporary.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it's in preparation for what God has in store for you. If we don't go through the things that we go through in life, we are not going to be prepared for what's to come. And for those of you that missed, I did a live today because God had put it on my heart to talk about this because I'm hearing a lot of people go through stuff. It's like our lives are a book. And the things that we go through in our lives, whether positive or negative, are pages and chapters in that book.
Right.
And just like any book, every chapter is a different segment of our lives. And from one chapter to the next chapter is a segue into the next part of our lives. The problem that we have is that we're trying to extend these chapters when God is telling you this is the end of the chapter. It's time to start another chapter. And a lot of times that the ending of that chapter won't look the same all the time. There's going to be an abrupt end to a chapter that seems like that's the final chapter. Sometimes there's going to be a what's next to be continued end of a chapter. But the one thing that we could be clear on is that, and I call these years, the pages are years. And it's not necessarily up to you on how many pages in that chapter it's going to be. You can have a chapter where there's 30 pages. Then you can have another chapter that's only 5. And what's crazy about that is we think because God put somebody in our lives and they've been in our lives 10, 15, 20 years, that that's the final chapter. But a lot of times that's the prelude to what the rest of the book is going to look like. So we got to be careful in how we move through these chapters and pages in our lives, that we don't get caught up on a page, that we don't get caught up on a chapter, because there's so much left in the book, and the book will be based on time. Not everybody's book is going to look different. Somebody's book may look like a magazine. Somebody's book may look like a DIY. Somebody's book may look like an autobiography. Others may look like a novel. But if you consult God in the writing of that book, it's a bestseller.
Number 1 seller.
Bestseller. Man, I really appreciate you guys tuning in today. I hope what we said was both inspirational, motivational.
Motivation.
I know, Floyd. Floyd, I gave you a pass. I gave you a pass on like 3 mechanisms. I know y'all heard his mechanisms, and not all of his mechanisms were mechanisms. One was a mechanic and isms. One was a mahismism.
It came out.
Floyd does not have a space to try to correct me on my verbiage. As many passes, I do correct him a lot of times on air, because Floyd will get going, and Floyd will turn a sentence into one word. But yeah, love him to death, but Floyd is both country and country. But yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in, man, and always keep in mind that everything we go through in life is God allowing it to happen. And so instead of asking the question why, start thanking God for even the bad things that you go through. Because the bad things that you go through is really in preparation for what God has in store for you. And when you start asking why, a lot of times you don't become open to hearing what's coming up because you're stuck on the why. Like I said, we appreciate you guys tuning in, man. I hope we said something that stirred your spirit, motivated and inspired you. But most of all, man, when God puts people on your heart and puts things on your heart, there's a reason that happens, and that is one of 2 reasons: that you need to say it because someone needs to hear it, or that there's somebody going through something that their pride won't let them come out openly and express what it is that they're going through, or even ask for help. So we got to become better at really connecting the ties that bind as humans. This is not a race thing. It's not a status thing. It's a human thing. And so we appreciate you guys tuning in as always. And how we end all shows: love, peace, and soul.